Hello and welcome. I'm Joel George and I'm here to teach you about ionic and covalent bonding. Firstly, let's start off with the basics of an atom. An atom has three main components: the proton, the neutron, and the electron. The proton has a positive charge, while the neutron has no charge, and the electron has a negative charge. The protons and neutrons can be found in the center of an atom, or the atom's nucleus, while the electrons can be found whizzing around the atom's nucleus in the electron cloud. In diagrams, scientists usually depict this cloud as shells, or the rings that run through these electrons. The first ring, which is closest to the nucleus, can hold 2 electrons at max, while the second ring, which is farther away and slightly bigger, can hold 8 electrons at max. The electrons on the last shell of an atom are the valence electrons of that atom. If an atom only has 2 shells, like this lithium atom, the electrons on the second shell are the valence electrons. So this electron right here is the valence electron of a lithium atom. If an atom has 3 shells, the electrons located on the third shell will be the valence electrons. Atoms always thrive to have full or completely empty shells, but this is sadly usually not the case. Sometimes atoms will be 1 electron short of having a full second shell, or they may only have 1 electron on their second shell. This is where ionic and covalent bonding comes in. Atoms form bonds in order to complete their shells and make themselves stable. And ionic and covalent bonds are the 2 types of bonds that form between atoms. Ionic bonding occurs when an atom gives away an electron to make its shell empty, or takes an electron to complete its shell. Then the atom becomes positively or negatively charged, but I will explain that later. Covalent bonding occurs when 2 or more atoms share electrons, and I will also go deeper into that later. Before moving on, I just wanted to add a little tidbit for you. The number of electrons in an atom is always or usually equal to the number of protons and neutrons in that atom. So, as you can see, we have 3 electrons in the lithium atom, and 3 protons, and 3 neutrons. Ionic bonding occurs when atoms give away or take electrons. Table salt, whose chemical formula is NaCl, forms from ionic bonding. So here we have 2 atoms, the lithium atom and the fluorine atom. The lithium atom has 1 valence electron in its second shell, so it wants to give it away to someone else, as this will make it more stable by giving it an empty shell. The fluorine atom has 7 valence electrons in its second shell, so, as you can see, it's 1 short of being full, so it wants to gain another electron. The lithium atom will then proceed to give away the extra electron that it has to the fluorine, giving it an empty shell and making itself more stable. When the fluorine receives this electron, it now becomes whole, as it now has the maximum amount of electrons that its last shell can hold, which is 8. The lithium becomes a positively charged ion, or an atom that has an electrical charge. It becomes positively charged because it has 3 positively charged protons and only 2 negatively charged electrons, so that gives it more positives than negatives, so it's 1 positive. The fluorine becomes negatively charged as it now has 10 electrons and only 9 protons, making it 1 more negative than positive, so it becomes -1. Just like magnets, atoms of opposite electrical charges attract to each other. So, the positive lithium and the negative fluorine atom bond together as they are opposite electrical charges. This new bond that forms is very strong and holds the atoms together, and it causes a new compound to form. This compound's chemical formula is LiF, lithium fluoride. Moving on to covalent bonding. Covalent bonding occurs when two or more atoms share electrons. H2O, CO2, O2, and many other important compounds form from covalent bonding. When atoms bond covalently, they do not lose valence electrons as they do in ionic bonding, but they only share electrons with other atoms. Now, here we have 3 hydrogen atoms and 1 nitrogen atom, the big one in the center. These hydrogen atoms have only one shell, the first one, and they want it to be stable with 2 valence electrons, but they only have 1, as you can see. The nitrogen atom has 5 valence electrons in its outer shell, so it wants to gain 3 to be complete. The hydrogen atoms cannot give away their only electrons, so they decide to share their electrons with the nitrogen atom. The nitrogen atom also shares 1 electron with each hydrogen atom, giving the hydrogen atoms a full first shell, making them stable. See? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now the hydrogen atoms are whole. The nitrogen atom is also whole, as the hydrogen atoms had shared 1 electron each with the nitrogen atom. The nitrogen atom now has 8 electrons in its outer shell, making it whole. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, since all these electrons have been shared between the 4 atoms, these atoms are now bonded together. This bond is strong and holds them together and forms a new compound, NH3, or ammonia. Covalent bonding offers an extra feature of sorts. It has something called double bonding. Now, when atoms form double bonds, it means that they share 2 pairs of electrons, or 4 electrons are shared between the 2 atoms. If you can remember, when the nitrogen atoms and the hydrogen atoms shared electrons between themselves, they only shared 2 electrons. 1, 2. They did not share 4 electrons, but in a double bond, 4 electrons are shared. Here we have 2 oxygen atoms. They only have 6 valence electrons and need 2 more, but a single covalent bond would not fill their shells, as it only gives them 1 extra than they usually had. In this case, they must form a double bond in order to get 2 more electrons that they need. Now the oxygen atoms have formed a covalent bond. This double bond gives the atoms 2 more than they usually had. See, the 2 atoms share a total of 4 electrons between them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they also have full shells now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Triple bonds and so on can also occur. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have learned something new about ionic and covalent bonds. Let's review. Ionic bonds occur when atoms give or take electrons from each other. When an atom gives away an electron, it becomes positively charged because it has more protons than it did electrons. If an atom receives an electron, it becomes negatively charged, as it has more electrons than protons. In ionic bonds, the two opposites attract and form a bond. In covalent bonding, atoms share electrons. Double bonds and triple bonds and so on can occur when a single covalent bond does not fit the circumstances, as we saw in the O2 model. I really hope you did enjoy my video, and see you again soon. Have a nice day, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching.